Welcome to the Existential Empath Podcast. My name is Tanya, and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tools and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you are all doing well, having a beautiful week. I wanted to discuss detachment, attachments when we are shifting timelines. I've been experiencing this quite a bit, just in the past and recently, where I am shifting timelines quite rapidly. And I am noticing that people, places, and things are anchoring me into old versions of myself or different frequency timelines that are not desirable to me anymore. And so I wanted to discuss this to see if any of you out there are also experiencing this. Many of us are shifting quite significantly. We're moving through these timelines quite rapidly. And the more that we work on expanding our consciousness and expanding our frequency, the faster it happens. And so, the analogy that I have, it's kind of like if you have a job and you've been working in it for 10 or 15 years, and then you decide you want to leave that job because there's something else that you'd like to do. And it's a completely different area of work for you. And so you put in your notice and you give the ample amount of time, and then you leave that job and you go off to start a new venture. But yet the people from that old job continue to contact you, continue to ask you questions about the job, and you are in a completely different mindset. You're moving forward on a new path. However, that old path continues to try to pull you back into it. And so, uh, you know, it is our job to be true to ourselves, right? And true to our own personal vibration. And what we are telling the universe is our point of attraction. And so if we continue to focus on providing that energy towards that old job, then what it's going to eventually do is drain us, because it's taking away our focus from the new path and the new career. And that's just an analogy. And I am recognizing that this is happening quite a bit, because in order for us to shift into a new timeline in the quantum field that reflects a more desirable frequency for us, we must make a choice between two or more realities, right? And so there could come a time when you are almost balancing into two different realities. And this is what's happening across the planet right now. Many are waking up to the idea of the matrix, and they're wanting to get out of it, but they don't know how. Or some are starting to take a step forward in a direction where they want to start their own business, or they want to start their own path, right? And not be under someone else's thumb. Or there's people out there like myself who have completely stepped out of that timeline or that frequency and have put both feet in to a new timeline. However, with that said, it takes some focus. It takes some consciousness to understand how to shift from an older version timeline into a newer version timeline. And this is infinite. We are constantly shifting timelines. And, I look back at the last 5 years of my life, and it's pretty crazy to think how many timelines I have shifted. And, this can also take place with environments as well. When I lived in Florida for 20 years, and I was used to that beachy lifestyle. And then I decided to quit my job of 10 plus years and move across the country and start my own business. And this was terrifying to me. And at the time, I didn't really realize that I was quantum leaping so significantly. But I had to not only part ways with the career path that I had chosen, but I also needed to part ways with some of the people in my life, as well as the environment. And I had to say goodbye to that beachy lifestyle of Florida. And I ended up moving out to the Pacific Northwest to be in the mountains and to experience four seasons. And so for me, the way that I handled it at that time was to really just embrace it and honor all that Florida had given to me, all those 20 years that I had lived there. And even previously to that, I had lived in New York State for 20 years. So I had to do that as well. I had to shift out of that um, previously. And so, I would take walks on the beach for those last 2 months that I knew I had there. I would, take walks on the beach, really soak in the sun, be grateful for the smell of the salt water and the sound of the seagulls and all those things that Florida brought to me. But I knew in my heart I was being guided to move to the mountains. I wanted to experience the changing of the seasons. I wanted to experience that first snowfall and the smell in the air. I wanted to experience the colors of the fall and just the beauty of it all. And so in Florida, it wasn't really providing that for me. So that's just an example of how an environment or a location uh, can attach us to it. Now, had I moved across the country and still been attached to Florida, it would have been really difficult for me to anchor myself in to that current timeline that I was living in the Pacific Northwest. And so it's really just being consciously aware of that. And so, also too, people can attach to you as well. They can attach to an older version of you. And, we don't outgrow others. Our new vibration outgrows the vibration of our old self. And so our energy field is different than what it was before. And so oftentimes when you shift these timelines so rapidly, you vibrate right out of certain friendships or relationships or even family dynamics. And it's just because you no longer resonate with your old self. However, they may still be holding on to an energetic stream or cord that attaches them to that older version of you. And they haven't identified with the newer version of you. And so, you will just naturally move into a new timeline. However, they may continue to try to anchor you back into that old timeline. And this is where, I talked about before, it's our job to be true to ourselves and true to our own personal vibration. And so, when we're shifting out of those timelines, it's really important that when we are experiencing that fluctuation between the timelines, that we have to really choose one of them and really put our focus towards it and really make sure that our vibration is holding strong in that particular timeline. And because it's all about momentum. If we are continually kind of being double minded or vacillating back and forth in our energy, then what that's doing is it's showing the universe that we're confused or we're undecided. We aren't really sure which timeline we want to anchor ourselves into. And so this is where we have those attachments to people, places, and things. It could even be a car. When I say things, it's like, you moved from Florida and you can have a certain vehicle, and then you move out into the mountains and you need a different type of vehicle, or maybe you need to buy snow tires or do different things so that way you can be more comfortable in your new timeline. And these are things that begin to transpire as we are moving in and out on a quantum level. And it is showing itself in our physical reality. And so, when we choose to feed our focus towards one specific timeline, it will kind of begin to slowly cut off or suffocate the energy from the older version of ourselves. It's almost like if you were out in the woods and you're taking a walk with a friend and you come to a fork in the road and your friend decides to go down one path and you decide to go down another. There's a certain amount of time where you're not connected with one another, but there could be a point when those paths begin to intersect again and you have a choice. Do you want to continue down the same path, or do you want to continue down your own path? And so it's really just our choice of our vibrational frequency on what timeline we really prefer or desire to anchor ourselves into. And it can be hard, it can be really difficult, because if you're one who really wants to uh, has a desire to anchor yourself into a certain timeline, but for many, many, many years you've been anchored into an older version of yourself, it can be really hard to detach or disconnect from those people, places, and things in your life. And so, one thing that I ask is, that you go inward. That's why it's so important for solitude during these shifts, during these times of timeline fluctuation. And if people aren't respecting your solitude, then it might be presenting itself to you that you need to set stronger boundaries. And if you're setting boundaries and people are not respecting them, then that's their issue to deal with, right? That's their trigger to deal with. And so, really, it's just us learning how to focus our attention, focus our energy in the areas that we desire, and the path or the timeline that we want to move down, move forward in. And so, in order for us to connect with our intuition, we have to get comfortable with sitting in silence all by ourselves. And silence is the language of the universe. That's when we receive information. That's when we receive downloads. That's when we can tune in to our body, to our emotions. What is bubbling to the surface? How do we feel in this timeline? Am I following a timeline because someone else is? Is this really the timeline I even want to be in? And so, sitting in solitude and having that awareness is crucial, because intuition is about getting in tune with our soul self, our higher self, that more expanded version of us. And that more expanded version of us can see from a broader perspective the entire map, where we may only be seeing the path, right? And so, really tuning in to that higher version of ourself will allow us to get in touch with our spiritual nature, and our intuition will become even stronger and more powerful. So, for those of you out there who resonate with this information, then I send so much love to everyone out there, because I know we're all navigating this on our own. And there's days when it's a lot easier, then there's days when it's really, really difficult. And so, on those days where it might feel a little difficult, that's when I would really recommend just going inward. Going inward, sitting in that solitude, and seeing what comes through, seeing what information comes through, and then being open to how the universe presents that information to you. If you ask, what path should I take? Which timeline do I want to anchor myself into? And then waiting for that confirmation or that validation or those synchronicities to come forward to give you those subtle answers. So that way you feel more confident and you feel more validated on which path is best and right for you. And really just sitting back and feeling into your heart and trying not to overthink it, because oftentimes we will overthink things. And sometimes other people will get into our thoughts and into our mind as well. I know, when I started to make that decision to move across the country and to start my own business, I had every Tom, Dick, and Harry yapping in my ear that what I was doing was crazy. And honestly, I felt deep in my heart I needed to make this shift, because I was not happy where I was. And had I listened to them, I would still be there today, miserable and not following my heart. And so, just take it with a grain of salt. Those people around you who are either supporting you or not supporting you, and them as well. As you shift your timeline, you will begin to recognize you will shift the people in your life too, because your point of focus is going to change, and that vibrational frequency will change as well. And so it's really just being consciously aware of all of this that's transpiring, and sitting in your own intuition, sitting in that solitude, and feeling into your body and into your heart, and asking yourself those hard questions. Is this my path or is this someone else's path? So really it comes down to us practicing the vibration of it until that vibration of your desire supersedes the vibration of any doubt that you may have that could be coming from the people around you or even yourself, that negative self-talk. And so when that vibration of your desire actually supersedes the vibration of your doubt, that's when you anchor yourself into those timelines. And so, just also understanding that anyone who is not on your same evolutionary journey will distance themselves from you. And, while all of those who are on the same evolutionary journey will attract themselves to you. And that can be, very difficult, especially if you're really close to someone, maybe it's a spouse or a family member or a coworker, friend, and you begin to expand your consciousness or expand your frequency, and they just aren't on the same path as you are. And so, but you'll begin to see how amazing it is, because once you start to really hold and anchor yourself into that vibration you desire, you will begin to attract people into your life, places, synchronicities, opportunities, and experiences, because you are in alignment with your desires and you're in alignment with your heart. And so whoever needs to be by your side will ultimately appear in your life in a very divine manner, in a very divine fashion. And so it can be really hard at times, though, because if you're not focusing your energy on that particular desired timeline, then you are basically kind of got one foot on each side of the bridge, right? Am I going this way or am I going that way? And so, no matter what's happening in front of you, you must accept that, reality can can only begin to override right there in front of you. And it's your choice, it's your decision on where you focus your energy and your vibration. So I hope, again, that this information was helpful. And I send each and every one of you so much uplifting energy to get through whatever it may be that you're going through. And I hope to share more of my experiences and tips and tools that I'm learning in the future. Take care.
You deserve to navigate your life as an empath in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT tapping, and the Emotion Code, visit my website at www.thesoulcafe.org.